Hello and welcome to the Roll and Reflect podcast, the podcast where we bring you insights from behind the tabletop and beyond the box. I'm one of your hosts, Devon.
And I'm Mark.
Today we have another special guest by the name of Jack Dunbar, who knows a thing or two about skirmish games. Jack with New Kingdom Gaming, welcome to the show.
Hey, Devon. Hey, Mark. It's good to be on here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I know how much we love head-to-head kind of skirmish dueling style games, so I wanted to bring you on this podcast because I think that was a really good topic for both of us. And then Mark decided to jump in as well. So this is going to be a fun topic here. But before we do, I think Jack has an interesting question he would like to ask of you all.
I was really curious. I mean, you guys both attend a lot of conventions, so I was thinking you guys probably have a good pulse on what's going on in the industry and what's going on with board games in general. And my thought is, what do you guys think is the next big trend or the next hot thing in board games?
Well, I think there's several possibilities, right? So, a lot of folks have real strong opinions about apps and board games and things, but I feel like technology in general is going to continue to drive some of the things going on in the board game industry, like pieces talking to each other or augmented reality, like Damio. That game is phenomenal.
It's crazy.
You want to look at just what that means exactly. So I think that is going to be continuing a trend that's just going to continue. But obviously other things like legacy games are going to always be a thing, and games that evolve as you play them. I think that's just always an ongoing thing for me anyway.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've noticed is, I think we talked about this in the last couple episodes, but diverse themes and representation is becoming a much bigger thing, which I really appreciate. So, we're getting games from all overseas, not just the Americas, and I think that's awesome for the hobby. And I think that's just going to continue to grow and grow.
I think you're right. I think also environmental sustainability, things like that are already going to be big things in gaming as well. Absolutely.
Yes, I know. I remember when CGE put out the Rewood thing with one of their games, and that was so cool. I got to see it in person, and it was really cool to hear about the story behind it. I think representation is going to be one of those really good things that continues. It's the next big thing. I don't know, but I really love what Off the Page Games is doing with the comic books, converting them into board games.
Absolutely. So cool.
The industry is going to find out that you can do that same thing, but with books. And turning books into board games. There's so many awesome worlds and books out there.
The other thing, too, is that we're going to see a huge explosion of Lord of the Rings games. Not that there already was, but now the license is, they're just freely giving it out, basically. Yeah. So we're going to see tons and tons and tons of that, which I'm fine with.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right?
Right.
I'm really curious how the growth of the industry will change things. I think we'll see a lot more like mergers and acquisitions, for instance. I think we'll see some of these, like a good example is sort of like what happened with Mythic. It was their projects were swallowed by other larger companies. I think we'll see that with whole publishing houses in a positive way, where larger design teams are coming together, larger teams of artists, and I think we'll just see high production quality from some large staple publishing houses in the industry, and I think that will just proliferate a high quality in the space. But then also it carves out this interesting space for indies. Where I think they'll just get increasingly niche, sort of like Devon, what you're talking about with representation. I think we'll see, to really stand out, more themes pushing the envelopes, and especially with the rise of AI as a tool in the board game industry, I think we'll see artists getting really out of the box to really be like, okay, no, this isn't, the art on this game is not smooth, polished, like it's clearly not AI. I think we'll see a lot more of that sort of diversification, which I think will just be fun. We'll see some new art styles, and to me, that's what I think we'll see a lot of in the coming years, is just some really off the walls art and some kind of interesting things in that space. So
I think you're talking about too with the acquisitions and mergers. Obviously, we just heard about the Goliath merger buying out Lucky Duck, but then also smaller companies such as Tangerine Games just bought the rights to Megapulse, which is the first game that brought me into the industry essentially. So that's really cool to see games actually getting bought out and coming into market that may not necessarily been able to get into the market. So I think that's a really cool thing for the hobby as well, like picking each other up and trying to get these games that are really good out to the market.
Right.
So that's a really cool thing that's happening.
Yeah. I think too, like you said, that the whole acquisition and merger thing that happens will also create that vacuum, not just for indie stuff, but all these little shops to kind of start to come up. I don't think it'll eliminate those folks at all. I think it's going to leave a vacuum for those folks. All these mergers and things, and a lot of times those little companies are going to have better games.
There's also a hot ticket item that I'm going to throw out there, and I'm going to get railed in the comments. But this whole meeple thing that was I'm gonna bring it up because I just watched a video about it with more research and background from a lawyer. Very intrigued by what is going to happen. I don't personally see the meeple going away. I see companies restricting themselves on how often they would use it or in what situations they would use the word. The shape's fine. Like the shape's not trademarked because it's been that shape or similar for a long time. But the word now, I'm going to see a lot of companies probably shying away from it just because they don't want to deal with the drama behind it. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on the whole meeple situation?
I happen to be fairly close to it, actually. My good buddy Corey is.
I was like, Corey's buying the trademark now, isn't he?
So, but it's really more of a statement from him to say it's ridiculous what you guys are doing. So his whole thing is that to use it, you just have to give me candy, and in doing so, if they ever come after him, he can say, "Oh, sure, I'll share my profits with you. Here's candy." And that's kind of the goal. Just to
stick it to him,
kind of more of a slap in the face, like you guys are being dumb. So
it's fairly ridiculous.
To your point of leaving a vacuum, and I think it's just we're seeing the growth in the industry. We're seeing some of these like things that are relegated to the realms of like movies and video games, but board games is rising as an industry and falling into that larger category of revenue generating activities.
Yeah, and I know a lot of like with the previews I do, I get a lot of requests from like what used to be just straight up video game companies starting to jump into the space. So this is where I see more and more technology driven things kind of starting to happen. So it's interesting. I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, we've been doing app games forever. Now we're doing a board game. So that's definitely a thing that I'm seeing a lot in previews because I'm basically, cult of the future.
Yeah. Well, thanks for answering that question. That was something I thought Mark will know, and Devon, of course.
No, just Mark. Devon doesn't know anything. No. Mark knows everything.
I don't know about that.
What a great question, because
it was great. I loved it.
It really does bring a lot of insights from I want to hear all of your guys' comments as well. So if you're on YouTube, please feel free to comment below what you think is going to be the next big trend in the board game industry, because I would love to hear those answers. But now we have to get into our main topic. That's why you guys are here. We are going to talk about dueling games, or kind of head-to-head, not necessarily head-to-head, but it's going to be primarily head-to-head style, skirmish style games. And we're just going to start off with our top 5. So starting with game number 5, I'm going to let our special guest go first.
Nice. So we originally talked about skirmish games. We're like, well, what does that mean? Does it mean it has to be on a map? Does it mean you need to have miniatures? Right. Like what? So we just kind of broadened it to dueling games. Like what's a game where you're trying to defeat your opponent and you're going head to head, right? So I did pick a skirmish game for my number 5, and it's from a small publisher. My number 5 game is called Mantle of the Keeper. Strongbox Games.
Yeah.
Strongbox.
This is a game I really like. It's designed by Ben Levy and Zach Rovang. It's a game where you are playing as these chosen heroes, and all of the heroes are very asymmetrical. There's some terrain effects, which are really nice, but not overwhelming. There's a couple of different maps. So again, I think there's room for this game to expand if these publishers, choose to go that route. And I just I love all of the different little interactions between the heroes. I think there is a really interesting kind of dual currency here, where you have your hit points, then you also have favor, which you build up as the game progresses, and you spend to enable your stronger abilities. And it's just a nice little game with some card play and tactical movement. So Mantle of the Keeper, that's my number 5.
Yeah, Mark, did you have a preview for that at all?
Nope, not for that one.
Okay, I had the opportunity to play Mantle of the Keeper and do some content for that, and I love the guys over there. Ben and Zach are great guys, and I think they have a really good game with Mantle of the Keeper. And I love the tiles with the different effects that you could place out. So I can't quite remember everything, but I know there's like certain obstacles that if you run into it, something happens, you take damage, like thorns or something. But I remember we played on TTS for the first time I played with Dave Beck of Distilled Peverson Games, and I played with Zach and then Ben, and I just got teamed up on like no other, and I got destroyed. Dave Beck just grudge everywhere. He just crushed me, and so it was a great game. I mean, I had a blast playing it, and I think they have a really good one there with Mantle the Keeper. So
nice,
cool.
My number 5 here in all of these games on my list, if anyone asks, I will play it immediately. I love all of these games. And number 5 for me is going to be Summoner Wars by Plaid Hat Games. And I specifically have the second edition. I never did play the first edition. I know there's some differences, but not quite a ton of differences. Now, I love any games that give you factions, that different powers and abilities. And, where Mark is all about the dice chucking, I'm all about the factions and abilities. That's kind of my thing.
Right.
And so Summoner Wars just lends itself towards me specifically. And I love like the Frost Elves or whatever they're called, and how you're able to take these really interesting gates and turn them into characters sometimes. And it's such cool card play and a skirmish system that it's very unique and different, because you're placing these cards out on a grid essentially. Instead of like miniatures and all the stuff, you just place a card, you move up and down like you would a normal skirmish with miniatures. But then all of these abilities and that simple mechanism of boosting is genius to me. I love the aspect of you can boost a character, and then that boost gives you certain abilities with other characters. That is something I love about Summoner Wars, and I really want to use in one of my games in the future. I have some ideas, but we'll see where they go with that. So that is Summoner Wars for my number 5.
In general, I really like that idea of rows and columns for cards to battle in. I think it's really cool. And how you actually have to maneuver with the cards at times to put them in the right position. Okay, so for my number 5, I have Hero Realms, which is obviously like Star Realms. But this is one of my all-time favorite deck builders. I've played it so many times, and from Wise Wizard Games. And the theme appeals to me more than Star Realms did. So I have pretty much everything for it. So it is a battler, but they also did a cooperative version of it that you can play through a campaign, which is really cool, because it does feel like an RPG where you're building up your character with all the different stats and abilities and things you can do to attack your opponents. Right. So, and they have apps for it too, which are really well done
good apps
on the iPad. And I just love the game so much. So many, every time I play, I put together different combos of things. And it's not like where you build a deck ahead of time in battle. It's you're building it during the game, which is something I really love about it. So,
Hero Realms is one I was kind of the same as you, Mark. I didn't like the space theme as much with Star Realms. It's still an amazing game, but the theme didn't really hit me. So then I saw Hero Realms and I was like, okay, here we go. And I remember playing at a Gen Con 3 years ago, and I got hooked immediately. I bought it then and there, brought it home, and now my wife even loves the game too.
That's awesome.
And so we've played that quite a bit here in our house.
Yeah, it's so good, and it's easy to take anywhere, right? It's one of those games too. So
portable and easy to break out and play. It's easy to teach. That's a great pick.
It just, and everything's super intuitive about it too. Once you show folks like, oh, this connects to that, and that connects to this, they're like, oh. So I like that a lot. So
awesome. So that is game number 5. Let's move on to game number 4. I'll go ahead and just start this one out. Sure. I absolutely love Super Fantasy Brawl. This is
really good.
Such a fantastic game that every time I feel like I ask someone, do they know this game? They're like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of it.
What?
And I'm just what? How have you never heard of this game? It's so fun. And also I have really cool painted statues that Patrick from the community put together for me. So thank you to Patrick for that. But Super Fantasy Brawl is all about skirmish with epic miniatures. You go down this map, but instead of just defeating each other as the primary goal, it's actually more area control as opposed to killing, straight up just killing.
But there's definitely that too.
There definitely is, but it's not as bad as just like, oh, kill them and then you win the game. Like you get a victory point or a trophy or whatever, but really it's about controlling these zones, and then you get trophies based on what you control. And I think that's fantastic. And I actually really enjoy that. It's like a secondary win condition as opposed to just a straight up battler defeat the opponent. So I think Super Fantasy Brawl is so cool. I have everything for it. We're not going to talk about Mythic, but that game is just amazing in its own right.
The terrain effects in that game are awesome. I mean, that's one of the things I find so cool about is the way the arena is used. And also, it gives me kind of a King of Tokyo with like more punch.
Definitely.
Yeah,
with the,
very much so.
Yeah, which was one of my honorable mentions actually. But
nice.
We'll talk about honorable mentions later.
Okay, yeah. My number 4 is another game. It's lesser known, but it's called, and this one will appeal to you, Mark. It's got some great Ameritrash, kind of dice chucking.
Yes.
This game is called Gatefall.
Oh,
by
yeah.
Jack
I've not
Dyer.
played it, but I know about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Grim Rabbit Games. It's Jack Dyer and Nikki, I believe, that run that. And GameFound campaign coming out for a third set, Monsters set. That has, I think it's like Dracula, Frankenstein, Werewolf.
Very cool.
The creature from the Black Lagoon. So, they're doing some cool things with the teams of this game, but here's what makes this game special if you've never heard of it, which a lot of people haven't. The miniatures for this thing are like 3-4 inches tall. I mean, these are huge. They're like action figure scale models. It's played on a grid-based system. And the whole concept of this game is there's a rift in time and space, and two factions are like looting and attacking each other. So the first set was fantasy versus post-apocalyptic team. It just caught me with the theme, caught me with those big, beautiful miniatures. It was actually my first, one of the reasons this is on the list is this was my first backed Kickstarter. So I got these big things. I was like, what? This is crazy. You can get awesome games online.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but Gatefall has remained in a rotation with me and my friends. It's a lot of fun. But specifically when you add in the Into the Northwoods second season, which is a team of 3 heroes, and every team has a fourth that was, made Kickstarter exclusive or something like that. I think you can get all of the content for it, but the asymmetry of the Into the Northwoods faction it really takes it up a notch. Here's the thing I love about this game, though. All of your actions, everything that you can do with your heroes is on a player board. And I think that is just so elegant. It's like, what can I do? Well, let me look at this one reference, and it gives me the things I need to do.
Yep.
So I think fun game, interesting components. Some people are down on the dice chucking. You know how that goes, Mark. It's like, I
don't understand that at all.
but fun arena battling skirmish game.
Cool.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and I love good player boards reference keys that allow you to play without referencing the rule book. Every time there's a good one in a preview I do, and look at this, I always point it out because I love them so much.
And it kind of goes back to Mantle the Keeper as well. I think their character boards, they have just all the actions you do. Obviously, they have cards as well, but it was really easy to do with that as well. So, Gatefall.
So my number 4 is Star Wars Rebellion. I got to put Star Wars in there, obviously, right?
Got it.
So everything about this game is just a ton of fun. And I always thought, I'll always play the Rebels, but you know what? The Empire is a ton of fun to play.
The bad guys,
all kinds of really cool miniatures too. They're smaller, but man, they're detailed and they look amazing on the board as you move across the galaxy and try to find the Rebels, or the Rebels try to take you, their foothold into the galaxy. But there's dice, there's card play, there's even some cooperative play where you can put 2 people on a team, which is an interesting aspect to try as well. But it is one of the strongest Star Wars themed games. You feel like you're in the universe playing absolutely as you battle across the different planets in various areas of the galaxy. And as the Empire trying to find the Rebels, which is just this really fun exercise as you're moving out across and exploring, right? And just try to dominate the galaxy. So I don't know. It's just really, and when you see the table presence here, and you've got little pilots too and things, the different characters that you would recognize from the movies, but when you just see them moving out across the galaxy, and as the board starts to populate, it's this amazing table presence of Star Wars.
Cinematic.
Cinematic's a good word because it absolutely feels like you're playing as the Rebels or the Empire when you embody those characters.
Absolutely. It might be my favorite of all the Star Wars-esque type games, right?
High praise.
So it's just so well done, and Fantasy Flight did a great job with it. I really like it a lot. So
I haven't played Star Wars Rebellion yet. Honestly, I haven't played a lot of the Star Wars thing because I like the Star Wars IP, but I've never really jumped into the games specifically. But if it's on this list, I mean, everything on this list I have to play because I love this
Right.
list, right? That is number 4 here. Let's jump to number 3. Mark, why don't you go ahead and start here?
All right. Heroescape. I mean, there's so many reasons to love Heroescape because one, just building the terrain. You could spend a whole day building a massive terrain to play the next day on. And we've used the terrain in like D&D adventures, all kinds of different ways to use that terrain. The fact that you can battle against the Hulk and a dragon is just some of the most fun moments. Yeah, whatever. I love the Hulk.
Anti-Hulk.
The Hulk is fantastic. So the fact you can mix and match characters from all kinds of different worlds in this battler is just so much fun. And I love people complain about the cards and things in this game about how they're shaped oddly. I think it's super cool.
I love the shapes.
Yeah, it's so cool. And again, dice. Most of these games for me have dice in them. So yeah, more dice chuck in this one. But yeah, it is just, and it's very straightforward about what the powers are of the individual units you're using and so forth. So I really, it's just one of my favorite games overall. I've got buckets and buckets of the terrain. I found a garage sale where someone sold like was it 6 crates of it? I think they had for like $10. But it all smelled like smoke. So I put it all in the dishwasher and ran it through a couple cycles and cleaned it right up. So
Nice.
If you guys haven't heard, there's a few episodes back we talked about Heroescape already, and so you know how much I love the Hulk in this game.
It's so good, right?
Sometimes
it's just cinematic. The more damage he takes, the stronger he gets. Yes, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Sometimes you just need things to be a little broken, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and go next, and my number 3 is going to be, no shock to anyone, Dice Throne.
Dice Throne.
And I love dice chucking, not as much as Mark does, but Dice Throne is one of those that hooked me again immediately when I played it. I was like, okay, Yahtzee, I actually don't hate Yahtzee. I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I hate Yahtzee so much. I like Yahtzee. I think it's a simple, nice game. And so I was like, Dice Throne, Yahtzee, but with awesome powers? Okay, I'm in, and then I played it and immediately I backed and bought everything for the game, and now I own everything. And my buddy and I are actually just finishing up a Smash Up tournament, and as soon as we're done there, we're going to jump into Dice Throne. So we have a whole Dice Throne tournament planned out. It's one of those that I love, like how every character is so vastly different within the same system that they have. I think it's just their system is so good, and obviously we're knowing how good it is because Dice Throne continues to make $cajillion every campaign. They just released their next Marvel set. What was it? X-Men, I believe.
X-Men.
And just went insane. Yeah, I can't wait to get it. I backed all in on that one. That was actually the last campaign I backed all in on, and then I'm kind of not backing now. But man, Dice Throne, so fun.
I did previews for that one, so they let me do previews for each character and went through the different characters that way, and it was really fun. I loved all of, and the funny thing is that I thought for sure Wolverine was going to be my favorite, but ended up Iceman.
I was going to say Iceman sounds awesome.
Iceman is awesome.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Cool.
So good.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, the funny thing is, so Manny Tremblay, the artist for that game, is from my hometown, Spokane. But Nate, the designer of that game, is actually from my even smaller town of Medical Lake. So
wow.
I saw him at the pumpkin patch right before this campaign went for X-Men.
Amazing.
And I was like, hey, you're gonna have Nightcrawler, right? And then as the campaign's going on, I'm like, so where's the Nightcrawler character? He's like, Jack, there's no Nightcrawler. I told you before, it's not happening.
Where's Nightcrawler?
That would be awesome. Yeah.
I seriously thought the secret one they were putting out, I thought that was Nightcrawler. Like everyone was just like, it's Nightcrawler with all the hints they were putting out. I'm just like, man, I want to be on your marketing team because you got me hyped up.
Yeah.
So that is Dice Throne.
Number 3 for me. So number 3 for me is actually a re-implementation of my favorite skirmish game of all time. This is what kind of got me into modern board games, I think. And this game is Unmatched. Unmatched, the system, is a re-implementation of Star Wars Epic Duels. So when Rob Davio was at Hasbro, this was one of his designs. I didn't even realize that till I got into game design because the name is not on the box at all for Star Wars Epic Duels. But my friend and I, we played that game a ton growing up. And then when Unmatched was released, I jumped on it, very, very cool system. I love it. My maybe only gripe with Unmatched is that the maneuver stage or phase of the game, I think, is named bizarre. It's always hard for me to teach this game because of that. It's like, well, you can move, but you have to draw. But otherwise, I mean, such a simple game. It's got that simple flow of you got to draw a card, and drawing down you can lose, so you got to kind of push the action. But some heroes, they're good at pushing the action. Some heroes, they want to stay back, like Medusa. You want to just kind of run around the board and try to outlast your opponent, and for me, my favorite is Alice. I like Alice in Wonderland. You get big and you smash, and then you get small and you run away and heal. Fun game, just a lot going on there, a lot of asymmetry. And over at Restoration Games, they've just keep putting out content that's valuable. For me, specifically, the best set here is Cobble and Fog. I like those Victorian sort of folklore characters. It's just so fun. So Unmatched for me, it's an easy one to play in table, and always grabs attention for anyone that I put in front of. So
yeah, it's definitely an honorable mention one for me. I love it as well. I have the Dino one and Cobble and Fog are the two that I have. So I got to get the Dino one, absolutely, because I'm all
the Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So, man, I love the Raptors.
The Raptors, gang
up.
Yes,
it feels so great.
It was so fun. Yeah, so I definitely enjoy that one as well. They've done such a good job with the series and such, and I know that where the game came from was actually something that from a friend of mine who is on Big Bang Theory was frequently talked about and played behind the scenes. So they love those games as well. So.
Nice.
I'm very much in the outlier. Mark knows how much I actually don't like Unmatched. I am one of the very few people that I've played it, and I think that's primarily because I need to play it a little more. I played it was with the base, the original, with King Arthur or whatever.
That's not a good.
It was bad for me. So I think I need to try it with other sets and play it a little bit more. But
you should just do Cobble and Fog, because that's the one.
If you play with the original set, you gotta play Sinbad, man.
Yeah,
go on those journeys, come back.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think for me the main thing was like, I'm not a fan of like running in and then just running away kind of combat, and it seemed like that was all we were doing. And so again, I think I need more plays to try and justify why I don't like it, if I don't like it after like 4 more plays. But
it's an interesting one to play with 3 too, or 4. 4 can get a little bit slower, or there can be
I like it 3. 3 is very interesting.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into game number 2. Jack, why don't you start here?
Okay, well, this is the first crossover of this episode, and it's crossover with Mark. Hero Realms is my number 2. I, like you guys, drawn to the fantasy theme, so that's a huge draw for me. But I've played a lot of Star Realms, and what I find with Hero Realms is Star Realms, man, you get things going, you get this massive output of damage, huge econ turns, and it's like very swingy. Hero Realms is very tight. I feel like you kind of stay in the fight. I played Hero Realms. I had a friend up from San Francisco, and we played probably 18 games of Hero Realms this last week. It was just such a blast, staying up late, playing, because you play a game, you go, all right, let's play again.
Yeah.
And then you try something different. You go, I'm going to go blue faction. I'm going to try to get my money going, and then you can kind of shift gears. I love that they have all this cooperative content.
Right.
Like you mentioned,
through
Mark.
the adventures. They're
dungeon
delving
fun. And
it's so
the
good.
D&D classes you can build.
Wow.
You can get your cleric and level them up. It's just a fantastic game and system. And really love what they do over there. Robot Quest Arena and,
oh my gosh,
and
I love
Star
that game
Realms.
too.
I mean, these guys are just doing an excellent job. Rob Doherty, Darwin Castle, and White Wizard Games. Just love the content they put out. Hero Realms is my favorite. So that's my number 2.
And my number 2 is a crossover, again, by no shock at all, is Heroescape. I absolutely love Heroescape. And again, you can listen to the first one of the few episodes. We did a whole thing on Heroescape, but I'm actually going to be working for Renegade here at Gen Con, promoting the initial like modern day launch of Heroescape. And I cannot be more honored for that. It's going to be so cool. I just sent in my t-shirt request. I'm going to get a Heroescape t-shirt and everything. I'm just like, I feel like a kid in a candy shop. I'm going to be able to be there and sell the game that I've been playing since I was like 8 years old, 9 years
Right.
old.
So cool.
And I own everything from my childhood. Like, I have not sold it off. Like, my Pokemon cards and all that kind of stuff I sold off, but for some reason I kept HeroScape. I don't know why. Probably the toy factor. You know, I just love playing with toys and stuff. So
Yeah.
HeroScape's amazing, and I love the system with the dice. Obviously, there's a lot of randomness in the game, but when you're playing with the advanced side of the characters, it really changes the state of the game.
So my number 2 is a game I did as a preview, and it totally hit me out of left field that I would like it this much. It is Battle of the Gods, and it has Norse mythology. And again, it's a dice checker, card play, but it has amazing, huge miniatures in the game. And obviously, you get to play Thor, but like Norse mythology Thor. And you have Mjolnir, and you're rolling dice against your player boards that when you make the matches on the board, you get to do different things. And then there's this tug of war that's going on with your health and glory points as you move back and forth and just move these miniatures across the board and attack. And every character has vastly different abilities and powers and what they do and how you play. So they sent me all the things, at least that were currently for that particular campaign, and I still play it, and that's not true with a lot of preview games. I mean, I have a lot of fun with preview games, but not all hit the table repeatedly like this one has.
Is it kind of have a King of Tokyo feel? Or?
Kind of. Yep.
Okay.
It's kind of like a cross of King of Tokyo and Dice Throw. It's like it's like a mixture of the two. It's really well done.
Okay.
Yeah,
you got to check it out.
Man, that's when I saw Market, and I thought, I was like, ooh, that is attractive. Haven't got a chance to play it yet. I'm sure it would rise through the ranks quickly for me.
So fun. I love it. Again, cards and dice and just massive. I'm going to beat up on you. And then they pull some other dice roll where they're like, what? You know, it's just some really interesting choices there as you spin those dice, right? And roll them. And there's re-rolls that you can do and so forth as well. But, and there's like half icons as you combine them and do various things. So
that's cool.
I really like that. It's really, really well done. So yeah, check it out.
Awesome.
I'm a huge fan of the Norse mythology myself. I was definitely a Viking in another life. So I love anything with that theme. I will definitely play it over anything that's not a Viking theme. So
I'm with you there all the time. You know, dinos, Vikings, I'm all about all those things.
Awesome. Well, we are down to our top number 1 Dueler game. I will just go ahead and start. No shock to everyone in the world.
So surprised.
Radlands. I absolutely love Radlands. I had a few games on my list. I was playing around. I was like, well, is it 2 players specifically, you know, or multiple players? But Radlands, every time I play it, I'm just like, kind of like Hero Realms with you, Jack. I want to play this 50 times in a row. Like, I absolutely love it. Cards and abilities. The junking effect is so streamlined, and the design of this game makes me angry because I'm just like, how can I not design this good? Like, it's so simple. I want my game designs to be just like that, but it's so hard to strip down to the point where it's so elegant, yet their powers and abilities are vast. And I love what they do and how the top card could be a punk as an actual playable character is genius to me. So everything about Radlands and Roxley is just firing on all cylinders. And they just announced their base expansion, Cult of the Chrome or Cult of Chrome, where they're going to add a bunch of new bases. So I'm really excited for that. That is Radlands, my number 1.
Nice.
Yeah, super cool one. Great components. You know, I really, one of the things I love about that game is the scarcity of water.
Yeah,
it's like thought provoking.
It is.
Yeah, what?
I really like that.
Very thematic.
Super thematic, and then the tough choices around that too, which is really cool.
Yeah,
and even I have just the regular, you know, aftermarket, just standard buy at the store version, and even that version is so well done that with components and cards and everything, you don't really feel like you're missing out on all the high end components.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, the playmats are pretty nice.
The playmats are pretty cool. I agree, but I was amazed at how I was like, oh, okay. If I just got a playmat, I would be all set.
I'm in the same boat, Mark. And I feel, you know, Roxley is premium even at the base, which is just awesome.
Well, my number one is Dice Throne. I
Oh,
can't get enough of this game. I just cannot get enough of it. And again, it's much like Heroescape, where you can, put Wolverine against a Viking or whatever, any characters that they have. You can battle back and forth, and I love the simplicity of it, the Yahtzee style dice chucking. It's like one of my favorite dice chuckings, right up there with the Thunder Road. Those are some of my favorite dice chucking games. But this one, just that every character you play is just vastly plays differently, and again, the artwork, how everything, the presentation in their boxes, and how you just open it up and you feel like you're revealing your hero. It's just so cool. It's fantastic. Every aspect of it I love.
Oh, and I'm right there with you, Mark, because my number one is also Dice Throne.
Yeah.
Nice.
Shocked was no one.
Double crossovers. So for me, it's specifically season 2, though. That season 2 battle chest, you gotta have it.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're like, you played season 1, or I feel like anybody who's kind of like, nah, on Dice Throne, it's like, well, have you been the Cursed Pirate? Because
crazy,
that might change your mind, or have you tried out, playing Samurai Gunslinger, because that will get you hooked,
my gosh, yes.
So yeah, I mean, and that's a really good example. Like Samurai, super simple, but so rewarding. I mean, it's fun to play, right? Yeah. And then you get those things that are more complex, like for me, I like to challenge myself and go, can I even win a match as the Treant? I don't know if it can be done. I've never seen it happen. Never been able to do it myself.
That's great. It's funny. Now you make me want to go back and play some of those characters, because I've been playing straight up Marvel stuff. I haven't played the others for a while, actually. Yeah. So I need to try to go back and mix and match. And of course, the superhero ones definitely appeal to me in a huge way. But I love that there's so many different characters to choose from. So
I know Mark and I did a really high-end live stream a couple months ago.
It was fun.
That was super fun. I mean, it was a lot of work to put that together, because it was all the switches and bells and whistles. But of course, Mark crushed me both times, so that's a thing. But
and I played with Loki, right? And I'd never played Loki, so that was really fun.
Loki,
I love jumping in and playing a character for the first time and just learning and experiencing that. It's so good. So
that's one of my favorite things about Dice Throne, is that discovery piece where you go, what's this little token do?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool. Like Black Widow. I remember playing Black Widow for the first time and going, time bombs, and like I won by how much? Crazy. I'm gonna be her more often.
Yeah, my wife's favorite character is Black Widow, and every time I've played against Black Widow, she has won. It is always the time bomb that goes off when I'm least expecting it, and I'm like, no, it's always off the last mark. So awesome. Well, that was Dice Throne, and Radlands. For me, Radlands is definitely above Dice Throne, but again, I love Dice Throne, and I will play all of them. So
it's okay to be
Roxley
wrong
in the house.
Okay, watch yourself, Mark. I'm going to stop this podcast right now. We're going to have a conversation about this. Let's jump into honorable mentions. I have just a couple here I wanted to mention. So the reason I didn't put these primarily on is because they're very small, and I don't necessarily consider them like a dueler in the normal sense. Yeah. So I put Kiri on there. Again, we had a whole conversation.
On this game is so good.
We had a whole conversation about this game, but it's so genius. The graphic design and everything is amazing, but it's so simple. You're just playing a card and you're trying to figure out what your opponent is doing. So it's a dueler in a sense of where you're just dueling for card and card, but it's not where there's powers, abilities, anything. So I added that on there as a really good one to have if you enjoy duelers. And then I also put Tic Tac KO, surprisingly. I love the unstable games, most of them. Some of the new ones, not so much. But I think this game, the Dragons vs. Unicorns, gives you that dueler feel of where, it's pee or take that, right? It's you do this to destroy your opponent's thing. So, which is why I didn't put it in my primary list, because I don't feel like it's a direct dueler, but it has a lot of the same feelings to me. So those are my two honorable mentions.
Yeah. Mine already mentioned was Unmatched. just all the systems, but specifically Cobble and Fog. That's definitely my favorite of the bunch. But yeah, that's definitely high on my list to play. I haven't really collected all of them like I would with Dice Throne, right? So, but it's definitely a game I really enjoy for sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I had a few honorable mentions for me.
Nice.
Unstable games. I had a couple. Casting Shadows just didn't quite make the cut for me, but it's fun. The thing I like about it is I have played that with more non-gamers and get them into it. I think it's maybe the art, maybe the characters kind of draw people in. It's fun, it doesn't quite scratch the itch for me, but the amount of times I can get to the table, that helps a lot. So that's a really good one.
I haven't yet played that one. It's on my shelf, but I haven't played it yet
either, but I know it. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's hex based. You got the spell book. You kind of figure out when to, rage or go into your unstable form or whatever. It's it's pretty cool. So yeah, Casting Shadows, another one from Unstable Games, Here to Slay, and that's not really. It didn't really make it's not really dueling. You're kind of more set collecting, and then you're monster fighting. Yeah. But man, as a head-to-head game, my wife and I have probably logged more plays of Here to Slay than just about anything. Again, I think the cute creatures, just played it with some friends over the weekend and was reminded, oh yeah, this game that's pretty fun, every time have a great time with it. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention level 99 games. They're
almost
all
dueling.
of them. The Exceed system, Pixel Tactics, BattleCon, all three of those are great systems that fit various different needs. Exceed to me, probably the most playable, just break it out, teach people some simple card mechanics and get going playing what feels like a real fighting game. So I love what they're doing over there. I like the lines of games they're working on at level 99. So the Exceed systems.
Another that I just thought of that is really quite old now that I haven't played it for a while, but Wiz War. Oh my god!
Oh, I just heard Roy Kennedy talking all about Wiz War.
Yeah, man, it's a brutal game. You're definitely not nice to each other.
Yeah.
It's if you ever get a chance to play Wiz War and learn it and sit down and check it out, definitely worth doing, because if you like to battle back and forth, that is. So there's lots of interesting battles because you're wizards and all kinds of different things can happen. So I have all the original set of it, but it's really. I want to get it to the table. It's just been a long time.
Since it's our podcast, I am going to shameless plug here a couple games because I feel like I have to, right? So we're talking about Arena Battlers. Well, our game that's currently coming out here in October, Montoons, is a direct Arena Battler, but it's a print and play, roll and write Arena Battler. So essentially the core of it is you have 5 dice, you just need a pencil or dry erase, and you're rolling dice, assigning them to these various moves, going around a map and defeating each other. But also there's a secondary win condition where it's a puzzle. So if you like puzzling instead of combat, there's also that win condition. So I had to put that on there. And then of course the other one is going to be called Folk Tales. And that is my other dice placement game that is going to be published by
me,
Jack.
yeah. Thankfully, I get to publish a Devon game, so I'm so excited about that. Folktales is great. It's really got some interesting stuff going on. Polyominoes in combat. What have I seen that? I don't know, but definitely going to be publishing it. So that'll be coming out here in the next year or two. Enough of that. We're going to talk about something outside possibly the board game industry that we like. So Mark, what time is it?
The Beyond.
We still need to nail that a little bit better.
I know it's hard. The transition's hard there, but it's okay. I'll go ahead and start because I have just a really quick one. I recently, which is so weird, I don't like space games in board games. But in real life, space fascinates me like no other. And I've been following the Mars exploration here with NASA recently. And I just watched the video about this team of going into a 1-year simulation on Mars, essentially. They were in there for 378 days, and they were farming and trying to make Mars a habitable planet. And I thought that's just fantastic, and it's really interesting to watch this happen. And so I've been following that pretty closely, and so it's really cool to see what NASA's doing with that.
There is a board game about that if you hadn't heard of it.
What's that game? I don't know.
Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
Never heard of it.
There was this a while ago. They did this Star Trek Enterprise replica, like what is it, 1/350th scale or something, but fully lit and sound effects, all that kind of stuff, die-cast metal, and I missed out on the original one. But now they're going to be doing the refit version from the motion picture, and it looks, a buddy of mine sent it to me last night. I'm like, oh man, this looks
Instant.
amazing, and I want it so bad. I might have to go sell blood so I can afford it.
Sell blood for toys. Worth
Sell
it.
blood for toys. But it looks so incredible. And the thing about this ship in particular, for the retrofit of the Enterprise, that always captivated me as a kid was that when you saw the motion picture for the first time in the theater, like I did, it was the very first time the Enterprise, you had a sense of scale. Oh my gosh, this ship is huge. You never got that from the TV series ever. So it's one of my favorite versions of the Enterprise for sure. So I'm definitely going to check it out. It's from CBS Studios Inc. is doing it. I think they're going to do some sort of campaign thing around it. So we can put a link in the show notes if you're interested for sure.
When you mentioned selling blood, I remember my dad went golfing with this guy this one time who had sold plasma to buy a golf cart.
Oh
my God. It was called the Plasminator.
That's awesome.
It's like awesome custom golf cart.
Right?
Yeah.
So good.
So for me, I'm really excited about I live on a lake here, and I love to, we have a boat. We get to take that out in the summer. It's fantastic. But I have a daughter who's 3, and she just went inner tubing for the first time
nice.
this weekend. And man, just to see the pure joy, it just reminds me, like that's what it's all about. Having those little joyful moments,
it is.
Getting to share those fun experiences with your kids is so great. And yeah, there's kind of a crossover there with board games, and just watching her sort of discover all of this stuff for the first time is just awesome. So I took my daughter inner tubing this weekend. It's really fun watching her cling on to her mom and then kind of get brave with dad, and then go back to it. So that's something I'm really excited about right now. It's just having those new experiences.
Yeah, I miss those firsts a lot. My kids are adults now, so I don't really have those anymore.
Mark's a young man.
My girls are in their 20s, so I miss those moments a lot. So,
yeah, my daughter just started crawling last week, so it literally took her a day, and then she just now is crawling everywhere. And so it's like, oh my goodness, put all the things, lock them down, make sure our plugs are going, all those things. But
that's awesome.
Well, thank you guys so much for jumping in this conversation. If you liked what you heard today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down. If you're on YouTube, click the notification bell to be notified when we release new content. If you want to follow our show, you can do that at Roll and Reflect or at Roll and Reflect Podcast. And then special shout outs to Jack. Thank you so much for being here on the show. Yeah. And then Laura for all of the timestamps. Finally, thank you all to the high rollers out there. And may your games be legendary.
And your rolls be epic.
We will see you on the next one.
Bye.